probably agree on.
Yeah, the playoff team for sure.
No deal.
I mean, I tell you what, I don't think there was a more accurate state. And
if they struggle again, I mean, I don't think there's any way you can keep Alex Critch, but.
What's going on, y'all? Bud Elliott here, another edition of my summer school series. That's our college ball preview special on the Cover 3 podcast today. I'm going to Scarlet Nation. I'm talking Rutgers with my man, Bobby Deren. Bobby, what's going on, dude?
Going great. How you doing, bud?
Doing well, man. Just talking about building bunk beds and loft beds off the air, and that's off season's a good time to do it. You guys getting a little warmth up there now?
Yeah. It's up high 80s today. Getting the humidity, and it feels like summer.
Nice, man. Shoot, I wish we could do high 80s down here in Orlando for summer. It's like 96. just baking when I was taking the trash cans out this morning. Something else been heating up though. Rutgers under Greg Schiano kind of steadily improving. Made a bowl last year. Won a bowl game last year. Beat Miami. Pretty cool to watch that. How this team looking to take another step here in 2024? Where, if anywhere, are you confident this team is a good bit better?
Well, they bring back pretty much an entire defense. They have 9 players coming back on defense who have starting experience. Lost Max Melton to the draft, who was a second rounder. But pretty much the whole defense is back. They're building depth. So, in case they run into some injuries, they'll be a little more equipped to deal with it. Offensively, you see a new quarterback coming in Nathan Kalikmanis from Minnesota. He spent time there with Rutgers OC Kirk Soraka while he was at Minnesota. He started some games under him. So he's a guy he wanted right after the season. They went out and got him. Gavin Wimsatt wound up going in the portal and going to Kentucky. So the offense is going to have a bit of a different look. I mean, it'll be the same offense, but you have Dymere Miller, who comes in as the FCS leading receiver, as a transfer from Monmouth. There's some more speed at the receiver position. So the offense is expected to be better than it was last year. It was primarily a run-oriented offense last year. So they're trying to get the passing game going. The defense should carry the team once again, but you have a lot of guys coming back. But so, they're really confident that this year is going to be a step up. And as we mentioned earlier, before we started recording, the schedule gets a little easier too.
Indeed. So with Kalikmanis coming in, what has the OC said? What has Kirk Soraka said about why they brought him in? He did not have a good year last year for Minnesota, and yet I listened back to our 2023 Minnesota Summer School, and Ryan Burns of our Minnesota site was he was very non-committal on him being a good QB in 23, but said that the Minnesota staff kind of liked him for the long term. What are some areas that maybe Rutgers thinks they can unlock in his game?
I really think they brought him in, just to upgrade that passing game. You saw Gavin Wimsatt miss a lot of passes last year that, you would expect a Power 5 quarterback to make, just simple out routes and whatnot. And he had speed. He could run the ball, but, the passing game was just lacking. When they played Iowa towards the end of the season, they're 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8 inside Iowa territory, and they're running the ball. You know what I mean? Like, it tells you all you need to know, the confidence level that they had in Gavin Wimsatt at the time. And he wanted somebody you can trust in the passing game and maybe stretch the field, maybe just get those quick out routes. Wimsatt had struggled with passes that you kind of scratch your head and go, how do you miss that? And he's got a cannon of an arm too. So it was kind of a head scratcher. And I really think that Kalikmanis was brought in, not the same type of runner, can get some sneaky yards here and there, but he's a guy who came in to kind of, establish a pulse in the passing game.
You just got to have a quarterback that can make your layups. It's for sure. It's not like Rutgers has wide open guys running all over the place on every play, but when they do get them, you do kind of need you to hit those for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, Bobby, who's a guy who we'll go to Indianapolis for Big Ten Media Days who won't be picked on that first or second all Big Ten team to start the year that maybe has a real chance to be there come the postseason team?
Offensively, you go Kyle Monangai, who led the Big Ten in rushing last year and still felt like he wasn't, acknowledged as the top guy in the Big Ten. You had Blake Corum, obviously, but a really good year and, stuck around for another year. is going to try to, up his draft stock. Offensively, I would say he's a guy that he kind of established himself, but quietly last year, like he's not still a household name. And defensively, Mohamed Toure is a guy who I think you should really pay attention to. Had over 90 tackles last year. Was primarily a rush end his first few years and went back to linebacker, played his first full season last year with Tyreen Powell's status still questionable about when he'll be available, coming back from an Achilles injury and a broken wrist. So they don't really know how available he's going to be, hoping he's there for the start of the season. But, Achilles just don't heal overnight. So Toure is going to be a big part of that defense. And he came on really strong last year, in my opinion, was the best overall player on that defense. And he just seemed to be getting better every week. Can play linebacker, can go down and rush the passer if need be, was the leading sack leader for 2 years in that role prior to last season. So he's a guy that I would really keep an eye on.
Bobby, which positions can they most kind of dip into their depth and utilize?
Dip into. I'm sorry. Depth at linebacker is pretty good. You have some depth at the safety position, brought in some young guys. Wide receivers actually got some guys beyond, the one or two that they're going to have this year. But other than that, you're a running back, I should say as well. You have Sam Brown behind Kyle Monangai, who I mentioned earlier, is really, has a chance to be an NFL guy as well. They have a lot of talent at the running back position, but your offensive line, you can't really afford that injury or two. You'll be going to guys who have no experience, who haven't really proven themselves. So offensive line is very thin. Across the defensive line, they have a little bit of depth, but it's not comfortable enough where you can say, all right, you can lose a guy and not lose a step. So, the trenches are a big one. I think they have to stay healthy there and be honest, games are won and lost there. So if you start getting guys going down there, things could take a hit real quick.
Fill in the blank. This is the best Rutgers team since blank.
Since, I would probably say since they were a win away from the Sugar Bowl. It was 2012. Greg Schiano left and they lost to Louisville. In the last game of the season, they were winning in the game. If they won that, they would have been, in one of those New Year's Day bowls. And I think this is the best semblance of talent that they've had since then. And like I'd mentioned, the season's open up for him with a favorable schedule. A lot of guys coming back. Greg's really kind of got this thing humming, and he's done so without really having the big bucks to go out and buy guys in the portal. So, it's a testament to the culture that he's built, and how he's been able to retain players who could have made more money elsewhere.
You mentioned that schedule. So open with Howard and Akron. That's 2-0. Bye week at Virginia Tech, so not an easy one, bye week or not, but still. Then you get Washington on a Friday night on short rest, which is kind of nice, I think, to be able to make the Huskies go east. And given the inexperience of the Huskies, probably want them early.
Yes.
At Nebraska is not easy, but then host Wisconsin, host UCLA, at USC. Bobby, this sets up pretty nice. And then the final stretch is also pretty friendly, man. You get Minnesota coming to town after a bye week for Rutgers, and that's Minnesota's third game in a row, including their second away game in a row. So, this is pretty good chance to comfortably make a bowl.
I would say so. And but it changes so much because you don't have Penn State, Michigan State, and Ohio State. Excuse me. You had them every year since Rutgers joined the Big Ten, and they won one of those games. They beat Michigan their first year in there and did not beat either team. So you're pretty much starting the year 0-3 in years past. Take those 3 games out of the equation, and you're getting a Washington team, like you said, that you really don't know what you're going to get because it's not the same Washington team that went to the finals last year. You replace from UCLA. I mean, that's not the same as Penn State, and even USC is not going to be the juggernaut that Michigan would be.
Absolutely, it's the real embodiment when we talk about how getting away from the old Big Ten East is really going to change the fortunes of some teams. And there was. I think Maryland is largely in the same boat. Although Iowa, if you look at Iowa's schedule, they seem to still get a Big Ten West schedule somehow. But several of those former West teams are gonna kind of find out what it's like to have to play Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State, and in some cases Oregon as well with the newcomer to the league. What do you think this team is, like 8-4?
Yeah, I could see an 8-4 season. Now, as I mentioned, a lot of it's going to have to do with how healthy they can stay up front. You take one or two injuries to key offensive linemen, and you're just raising your hands going, I don't know what's going to happen. But, Ethan Kalikmata should be a better passer than Gavin Wimsatt was. He showed himself to be in the spring. He should be able to, he's not going to be an all Big Ten first-team quarterback, but he should be able to manage the offense and make those completions that just get you the first downs. Those plays that guys should make as a starting Power 5 quarterback. And, your defense, you're building depth now because you're returning all these guys. I think the defense is really going to be good. And the offense just has to do a little bit more, and it'll really help the defense, because even in games where the defense was carrying Rutgers last year, they're gassed by the fourth quarter because they're on the field so much. So if you can take that, take them off the field a little bit more, which expects to happen, you could conceivably see 8 wins with that schedule.
Absolutely. Bobby, really appreciate it. We've followed all your coverage, fall camp battles and whatnot on Scarlet Nation. It's been a blast as always.
All right. Thanks, bud. Appreciate you having me.